Hello everyone, and welcome back to episode 4 of Replay Analysis with the Pros. Today we have something very special. The CC meta is kind of all over the place right now, so what we're going to do is actually go over a limited game, and I have Alex with me over here, top 8 at the recent calling in Taipei, the world premiere of High Seas. I almost forgot the name there. And Alex has also narrowly missed top 8, the MST world premiere, I believe, and also has top 8'd 2 classic constructor Balharans, so we're super excited to have him on the show, really. Looking forward to hearing his insight. Thank you so much for coming on, Alex. How are you?
Good. Thank you for having me. Excited to be on my first YouTube video.
How's your experience in Taipei?
Taipei was really fun. Apart from the weather, which I think could have been better. It was either hot or raining. I think it's a really nice place. Food is fantastic. The calling venue was pretty central, and it was a pretty great event. I had a lot of fun. Yeah.
Awesome. How much bubble tea did you have?
Oh, too much. Way too much.
That's a much better answer than Hayden. For those who haven't listened to our set review yet, I asked Hayden the same question. He had 1 bubble tea the entire time there, which I feel like is a crime. So I'm glad you had your fill of bubble tea.
Are you a fan as well?
Oh yeah, I am a big bubble tea fan. So tell us about, I guess, High Seas Limited in general. What were some of your takeaways after playing the full world premiere, which includes sealed and draft, and particularly how the heroes work, and I guess also especially Treasure Island, which is the big format defining macro?
Yeah, I've been playing Flesh and Blood pretty actively since just after Tales of Aria released, and I think I've tried every limited set that Flesh and Blood has to offer. Of course, I haven't tried Arcane Rising, Welcome to Wrath, and Tales of Aria as in depth as the rest, but for the rest, I've played at least a few competitive events that use them as limited sets. And I think High Seas is probably the most complex and most fun limited set that I've played so far. Just the interactions and the cards and the options offered to you are unlike every set we've seen so far. And I think they really knocked it out of the park with the design for this set. All the generic pirate cards and the existence of Scurv mean that your generics aren't really just slot fillers anymore. A lot of them are actually high priority, more so than before. A lot of them are high priority picks and actually very good cards that you can run and you don't feel unhappy putting in the deck. So, and of course, talking about Treasure Island brought a lot of complexity to the format and made the heroes actually function. Without Treasure Island, I doubt the heroes would be doing so well without all the gold. And as Brian said in the stream, every attack in this set has an on-hit. And I think after I opened my first few packs of the set during day 1, the world premiere event, and after that the calling, something I rated very highly was the 4 go against. So of course, life for a life and scar for a scar. I think not in much dispute, a lot of people rate those pretty highly. But even blow for a blow and some of the other blue sloops and red sloops I thought were fantastic, because all those 4 go against, they threaten the Treasure Island on hit. And I noticed a lot of people trying to block out and kind of counting on you to lose tempo and not have a hand that can extend. So I think all that go again really helps smooth the deck and make sure that if you have the tempo, you don't drop the tempo, and you have that initiative and that impetus to get the treasure from Treasure Island and force your opponent to either give you that gold or block out and not really return anything.
To your point about Treasure Island, giving you the gold to make the heroes work, it does seem after watching Unlimited games, it feels like because of Treasure Island, they have access to more gold than in CC, which is super interesting. Some players don't have that easy access to gold in CC, right? Like Marlon and Puffin, a big question mark they have in CC in building is how do you get the gold? And Limited, they kind of just have it, and you get to see the full designs of the hero, and also adds to a complexity that you were talking about. Because I think So yeah, every attack has an on hit, so that's just it adds a level of depth to the format. But on top of that, the lines with the gold for each hero are so interesting and so different because of how modal it is, right? Like Puffin and Puffin's making cogs, Marlin's making arrows, and Gravy's doing looting basically. But then there's also the part of it where you can just pitch it to draw, and if you're Marlin, that adds a different effect as well. So it's super deep. And how do you feel regarding, in a sense, okay, so you had like one event where you played High Seas format, which as we've discussed, is very complex and very deep. How prepared, I guess, do you feel for your nationals, given that you've had that experience in limited? Like how much more do you need to explore the format before you think you're like, okay, I'm actually prepared for nationals?
I think I'd like to draft Marlin a bit more because I think Marlin is probably the hero I'm the least confident on. Like for the sealed portion of the calling, I played Gravy because I think Puffin's actually not that strong in sealed, and that made a lot of people dismiss her during the draft in day 2. Like after my game with Yuki, she said that she had written off Puffin in draft because she was unimpressed with Puffin in sealed. But my thought process had always been that Puffin's cards generally seem consistent and kind of high power if you have access to that consistent cog generation. So I was pretty keen on drafting Puffin because Puffin seemed like a pretty easy draft compared to something like Gravy. Gravy needs a lot of different moving parts to function. And I'm not good with Ranger and like the whole Marlin thing into fatigue. I'm not like super great at wrapping my head around that. Yeah. I mean, I was intending to stay open and like draft what got passed to me, but luckily it was Puffin and it happened to be Puffin for like all 3 drafts. So yeah.
It does seem like Puffin has the most linear gold payoffs in a sense. Like Marlin and Gravy need to do like weird things with the gold. Like it's not just the gold that's a payoff, but they have like other things with it. Whereas Puffin is like, okay, it's half your hero ability, and then you need some other way to crank, and then the gold is your second crank, and you draw a card. So it feels like out of the 3 of them, she has the most linear, aggressive gold strategy, if you will. And speaking of Puffin, that is what you drafted, and that is the game we're going to go over. We're going to go over your game against Ivan in the Swiss. It was day 2. I believe your record was 10-1 and his was 9-2. So a very exciting game. It was a Puffin mirror, actually. So with that, I think we should be good to get into the game. Is there anything else from you before we head into this? Maybe your ideas on the Puffin mirror and how it might play out?
So I think the Puffin mirror was one where there is a chance it goes to fatigue. Definitely because Puffin, the Mechanologist cards, almost all block 3 apart from the Galvanize and the 1/4/4, like the 1+4 buffs. So there's a chance it goes to fatigue. So I think that's something that people have to keep in mind. And also denying gold, I think, is pretty big in this matchup because Puffin and Marlin are pretty dependent on gold, whereas Gravy kind of can make do without it because of the cards that discard Watery Grave from your hand on the top of deck. So I think, yeah, like there are a few parts of this game where I do like purposely deny gold because I suspect that Ivan is playing for the gold. And there are a few hands where I kind of hedge my bets that I will get the gold by like concealing information to try and get that gold payoff. Yeah.
Okay, awesome. Yeah, super excited to like dive into that. And with that, let's go ahead and take a look at the gameplay. Okay, and this is the gameplay round 12 of the calling at Taipei. It looks like Ivan is going first. Now, we didn't get to catch the die roll, but do you prefer going first or second in this matchup?
In a Puffin mirror, I definitely prefer going second. I think you only go first as Puffin if you're against Gravy, because you don't want him to set up that ally for free on turn 1.
Okay, makes a lot of sense. And an opponent played a Goldwing Turbine and just passed, so didn't put a counter on Treasure Island and didn't let you filter at all. Obviously, it means they don't need to crank the Golden Cog as well. And you follow up with your own Goldwing Turbine. What's your rating on that card? Like, how highly do you rate Goldwing Turbine? Because it's easy. I mean, we see you playing the blue one over here.
I think Goldwing Turbine is really important because it is a block 3. and it is the glue that kind of holds your deck together. Like when you have no gold, going turbine is kind of your fallback to get you that first cog that you really need to get going. So here, because I didn't have a cog, I couldn't extend my hand much. But that going turbine kind of gave me that cog, and it makes this sky skiff a bit more threatening. So it's either a 6 with go again or a 7. And that 7 is not easy to block, especially if it's threatening the treasure island on hit, right? I was a bit surprised that Ivan just set up the cog and passed, but I suppose it makes sense. I didn't really want to block with the cards in my hand, so I'm happy he did that, I suppose. But going first, it probably does make sense to just put up that cog and not crank it, so you have it going into your first proper turn. Yeah, so I think both of us play that first turn pretty standard. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So one blocks over here, and then you get the instant speed react here over here to pump it by 1 and get a treasure island on hit. And I don't know, Goldwing Turbine to me feels like a super, super strong card, because once you have a gold, which stays around indefinitely, any Goldwing Turbine you draw kind of replaces itself, right? Because it creates the cog, you crank it immediately. It doesn't require an on hit or anything, and after you crack the gold to puff, and then you draw a card, right? But I don't know if I'm overrating the card, but from this game, to me, it felt like one of the strongest cards in Puffin. I don't know if that's something you agree with or you have different thoughts.
I think very much so. Like I mentioned earlier, it is the glue that holds your deck together. And I think you rate it pretty highly. Like the red, I would take almost all the time. The only card that's kind of even better than Goldwing Turbine is Perk Up. Perk Up kind of fills a similar role, but you do need gold for Perk Up. But yeah, that just getting a +3, replacing itself, and getting a cog, those are all really good upsides. Mm-hmm. And it blocks 3. If it blocks 2, I'm not sure how highly I would rate the blue especially. But as a block 3, it's just such an easy take when you're playing Puffin.
And the block 3 is coming in handy over here because you're using it alongside your chess piece to block out the Scar for a Scar. So where's your head at now with regards to denying your opponent gold? So seeing as my hand couldn't really extend itself that well, I was a bit light on the pitch. It seemed like a pretty easy block on that Scar for a Scar, just in case he had a Goldwing Turbine or anything else that he could use that call to great effect for. And here, when he comes in with the Sky Skimmer, I see that he has 1 card left in hand, so I'm thinking it's probably just going to get +1. And I was thinking of blocking 4, but I don't want to play around that +1 because it would make for an awkward block. And if he just chooses the +1 and gets that gold anyway, my kind of block 4 goes to waste. So I do decide to just take it. And that is kind of a punish with this second Sky Skimmer, but now he has no arsenal, which is kind of fine by me. This is just presenting 4 damage. And over the course of the weekend, I did prefer to take a more aggressive approach because I don't really like giving my opponents the space. I like being the one who's deciding how the game is going. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I do block with the Sky Skiff because I don't want to lose too much health. It's an aggro mirror.
And I'm just...
all, so yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I am banking a little bit on my draw here from the Goldwing Turbine. At the very least, I know I can gun because I have the chess piece in case I don't find the blue or yellow. Yeah.
Yeah, I remember looking back at this play and thinking, oh man, if you didn't draw a blue over here, you might be... You still had a play, as you said, you activate your chess piece, but definitely not something you really want to do. So you gambled, you did the extra block 3 with the Cloud Skiff, hoping that you draw a resource card for this. Speaking of resource cards, then, what's the sort of ratio, I guess, that you like in terms of resource cards to red cards for this type of Puffin deck, where you're running the blunderbuss?
I think I was running 12 or 13 blues because initially I was under the impression that I could run less, but actually Ivan and I are part of the same playtesting group and we were discussing it the previous day. And he said, the moment you don't draw a blue, you lose, which I think kind of made sense. So I think I went a bit heavier on the blues, which I think especially in Puffin is fine because most of them block 3. I keep bringing up the block 3, but block 3 is pretty huge in this set. because a lot of the generics do block 2, and your block 3 covers a lot of the 4 breakpoints of the equipment, like because there's a lot of 4s, a lot of 7s. So block 3 is pretty relevant.
And since that hand had no blue, you're sort of, in a sense, you're more likely to draw blue since you already saw 4 cards in a row with no blue. So blue density in the deck is higher, and there's also some number of yellows in the deck as well. So even if you drew a yellow off the top, you still can do your gun without using your chess piece.
Yeah, I'm pretty. I guess I know the chance of drawing a blue is pretty high, so I wasn't too scared there.
And then you have this poke
I think getting that gold wing turbine draw value was like fine. Yeah.
Yeah, and you have this poke up in Arsenal, which obviously you probably only want to establish. You don't play that once you have your second gold, right? Like currently you're just sitting on 1. You need a second gold, and then your poke up is basically 1 for 4 draw card.
Yeah, for sure. I don't think you play the perk up unless you can get the draw off it. It's just the difference between getting that draw and not getting that draw is like massive. So I am comfortable staying on it in Arsenal since it's a power card. Yeah, but this turn from Ivan was scary. I was not expecting this coming in for 13.
Yeah, he had. I mean, even his previous turn was really strong, right? It was 4 into 4 into 4. He's sort of playing Aurora. It feels like he went 4 4 4, and then now he's doing. I guess this is a 4 card 13, so not as good, but it's still absolutely massive. And then you are kind of blocking 2. Talk to me about teeth in the cog. How much do you value the refreshing your golden cog?
So, teeth in the cog, I think, is kind of just an okay card. Like, I rate the red and the blue like pretty decently because the blue functions on offense, it functions as a pitch. It functions on defense and functions on as a pitch. You don't really want to attack with it because it's just a 0 for 2. But the red functions on defense and it functions on offense. Like 0 for 4 is good as a 1 card play or as a chain ender. You threaten that treasure island if you haven't hit. And 0 for 4 is... How much more can you ask for than 1 card 4 value, right? That's pretty good. But I do think I should have blocked with the unicycle on that turn. But this was a very interesting turn. Like when that Cogwort Zeppelin comes in, you see Ivan overblock. You play around that unicycle activation, even though I haven't blocked with it, because he was scared of the potential follow-up of a 0 for 4. That might come after the Zeppelin, or perhaps you were scared of the extra cog that I may have laying around if that Zeppelin hits.
Yeah. Which effectively would, because you have the gold, if the Cogwork Zeppelin hits, it's basically a card draw, right? Because you could crank that cog and then crack your gold and then crank that cog and then you draw a card, right?
Yeah. So Cogwork Zeppelin red is ridiculous. It has go again, but it doesn't say it has go again. Like I actually fought out Yuki on that. She said she didn't realize that I could get the action point back from the cog that I cranked. So, if you're going into, for anyone who's like going into their own drafts or pre-release, do be careful about red Cogwort Zeppelin. I think it's a pretty bomb card for Puffin. Yeah. And it's huge as well. Like if you have 2 cogs, you can come in for 8. Usually you probably want to have that untapped cog to like activate the on-hit ability. But it's just so flexible and it's so strong.
It's basically on hit go again and on hit half a card draw, right? Basically.
Yeah.
So yeah, that is incredible. So you point out that you should have blocked a unicycle just to threaten the potential of your untapped cog, which is interesting. And then you start.
Yeah, in case.
Yeah, sorry, go on.
No, in case I needed to break it this turn, if he only blocked 10, I should have blocked with the unicycle. But later on in the game, the unicycle does come in like pretty useful at denying him a gold. So there is that consideration as well. Yeah, like that 1 block is pretty valuable.
Yeah, because even if you blocked a unicycle on the previous turn, the on-hit was still going through, the on-hit being Treasure Island. So you sacrifice a potential drop of the on-hit to threaten it this turn. So I suppose, okay, given that, Ivan respects the unicycle despite you not having blocked with it, I have a question for you. What if he didn't overblock? Would you have still used the unicycle?
If he didn't overblock, I think I would have used the unicycle because following up with that strike gold and placing him at such a low life total would have allowed me to strip his hand like almost every turn.
Right.
Yeah.
So, but since the Cloud Skiff hit, you got your second gold, and then you just sent off the perk up, which is what we spoke about, right? Once you get your second gold, you just send off the perk up. So you had like options there on that turn. Yeah. I think I
also needed that additional cog for the Zeppelin, just so that I have the flexibility and that threat with the unicycle.
Right. I see. Yeah. So if he didn't, okay. Yeah. So if you didn't overblock this, you still would have just popped the unicycle, which is super fascinating to think about. That you effectively can save it for a breakpoint block later, and still make him respect you popping it right now. Just shows the strength.
Yeah, like
with the Zeppelin.
Earlier on, with the start of the turn with that red Cloud Skiff, right? Looking at Ivan's hand, like in this replay, I'm kind of surprised he didn't block the red Cloud Skiff. But I guess he wasn't expecting a perk up punish like following up. And Cloud Skiff doesn't have an on hit, whereas actually there are quite a few on hits in this set, like the 3/4/7s or like Cogwood Zeppelin or Strike Gold. So I think he was saving that red on the horizon for one of those on hits. But actually, if he blocked the Cloud Skiff, that perk up would have never drawn a card, like wouldn't have drawn a card this turn.
Well, if he blocked Skiff, then you would have followed with the Zeppelin, and then he would have needed to overblock the Zeppelin, right? Because otherwise you could unicycle and then draw a card anyway.
Yeah, but the Zeppelin would have been smaller, because I would not have played the perk up if I did not get that second gold.
Right, that makes sense. True.
Yeah, so it would have been smaller, but his hand does block pretty poorly here, so...
Yeah. Like, he would have needed to block 5 on the Skiff and then 6 on the Zeppelin.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I think the poke up punish was, that was the biggest punish, unfortunately, for Ivan over here. And it was funny because, remember, we came into this turn cycle after he sent 13 at you. And this goes to show what you were talking about earlier, right? Like the Puff and Mirror being like so aggressive and explosive sometimes. This is why you want to go second, and then you get to make plays like this, where he went 13 and you just send back your own Haymaker of 5 into 10 somehow.
Yeah. Like, I found that you can do like pretty crazy things on small hands this set. Like, I played in the first day of the calling, like when I was playing Gravy. There was one game I got IP3 because my deck was registered incorrectly. And on 3 cards, I managed to do, I think, 15 damage, like 3 into 6 into 6.
Wow.
Because of Saltwater Swell.
Right. Yep, that card can be very, very scary. Okay, so Ivan did overblock that, respecting your instant speed cog, and you just get to arsenal your strike gold. Okay, now this is the hand. This is the... you drew 4 blues over here after getting all the tempo. So talk to me about this hand, and just what are your thoughts? And talk about like Copper Cog as well. Like how highly do you rate this card and stuff?
So I wasn't too happy to see this hand. I was like, okay, this is a bit questionable. I saw the sloop and I thought maybe I'm playing the sloop. Like you mentioned earlier, like the gold gives you so much flexibility. Like drawing off the gold just works so well with High Tide. I think High Tide is like brilliant design. It's like awesome. And obviously like the mutiny here, like the mutinies are fantastic. Like just they're blues and their effects are pretty strong. Like when you think about it, it's not just you get a gold and you get the additional effect. You also get rid of your opponent's gold. Like when they have 1 gold, that can be backbreaking. And so this was just like a 0 for 2 go again, and you steal a gold. That's strong. And you asked about Copper Cog. Copper Cog, I think, is a pretty decent pick. I wouldn't pick it over cards like Cloud Skiff or Sky Skimmer. Obviously not Perk Up or Zeppelin, which are rare. Like as a rare, it's not a high priority pick. And this cog actually wheeled around back to me in the pack that it was in. So clearly Ivan didn't think too highly of it either. But it's a good card. Like it's half your crank requirement to draw a card, and it sticks around for 2 turns, which is relevant. So, I'm pretty happy to have Copper Cog in my deck. And it's a card that can wheel if there's not too many puffins in your draft board.
Mm-hmm. And it kind of unlocked your turn here, right? It gave you your first crank, and then you cracked your gold for puff and to draw a card. I would say unlocked. It kind of unbricked you a little bit. It replaced itself effectively, but it stays around for an extra turn.
So here I choose to shoot the gun first because it's a 4 go again. Like that breakpoint is, I think, valuable. And so I'm just trying to present numbers that are as awkward as possible for Ivan to block.
True, because if you send Cloud Skiff and use a cog to give go again to Cloud Skiff, that only comes in for 3. So that's like a lot harder, a lot easier for him to block, I mean.
Yeah, if I started with the Cloud Skiff, it would have been for 5 because of the Battalion, the Mutiny. Yes. And 5 is covered by 3 and 2, which is like pretty easy to do in this set. Or also covered by Rally the Coast Guard, which is a very good card. I think high priority, red or blue. It's just very flexible.
That's fascinating.
And it plays around Marlin Overpower.
It's fascinating that it seems like 4 is the harder breakpoint than 5, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, like the only way to easily block 4 in this set is with equipment, and Ivan has used all his equipment, or red on the horizon, or if you're Gravy, there is a D-react, but it's an M. I had initially thought there were no like reactions in the set at all until a Gravy played the Blood in the Water against me. Kind of took me by surprise.
Rip. The joys of playing on in the world premiere, right? You're facing new cards for the first time completely. So over here, you play the Cloud Skiff and you're holding on to Titan Screws. What are you thinking about for this turn cycle? Obviously, playing the blue, you're never happy to, but yeah.
I mean, I had the cog for the go again. Like this was fine by me. I knew I had the strike goal as a follow-up. It's obviously not ideal. I'd rather come in for more, but I just don't want to give Ivan like all that space to try and come back. Mm-hmm. And that strike gold, pretty good, threatens the gold, which obviously gives you more cogs and more card draw. So he does have to respect it here. I think he blocks, right?
Yeah, because you already have 1 gold. So yeah, if you get a second, then if you have another perk up in your deck, then that's just once again.
Oh no, he only blocked 3. Yeah, he wanted to follow up with the gun.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, there you go. So you got your second gold over here, and I think you do have more perk ups. How many perk ups did you end up drafting in this deck, by the way? Do you remember?
In this pot, I had 2, and I did make a mistake in the top. Like during the top 8 draft, like if I could go back in time, I'd change a few of my picks. Like there was one point I picked a unicycle over a perk up. Maybe I should have taken the perk up instead of the unicycle, because perk up is just that good. And here on Ivan's turn, you really see the power of Swift Strike Bracers. That card is very good.
It's what you were saying, like, right? You said you can do some scary things on small hands, and Ivan is showcasing exactly that. Yeah, he had 3 cards, and he's sending 8, and he's representing something else afterwards. It could be a 0 for 4, or it could be the gun. So,
yeah, when I saw this, like I was not expecting to take this much damage in retaliation. I was impressed.
I mean, this also goes back to, I think, possibly why he let the Strike Gold League 1 is so he can get go again on the Scar, right? Because if he blocked out you having the gold, he'd be at same life as you, and his Scar for Scar wouldn't have go again. So he might have been forced to let you have the gold here.
And I do decide to block 8 here to prevent him getting that gold, because I'm not sure if he needs that gold. Like, if he gets the gold, maybe he could like draw a card, or like do some other, or like give him, or like just arsenal the last card in his hand and then set up a cog for next turn, you know. So I do decide to deny him the gold here, but my hand isn't that great either.
Yeah, and I guess with this hand, because you have the 1 for 4 in Arsenal, you kind of have the default fallback of you pitch a blue for the 1 for 4 and send the gun, right? So you can still send 6 when your opponent's at 2. Like, is that kind of what?
I think that's kind of like the kind of one of the bread and butter turns for Puffin. It's at 1 for 4 into the gun for 6. Talking about the gun here, like I do use Blunderbuss. Spitfire is in a questionable spot in Limited. It's just really difficult to have that many cogs all the time, and Spitfire does not have go again, and it's difficult to cheat action points. So I think most times I'd use Blunderbuss over Spitfire. someone did tell me with my top 8 deck, maybe I should have used Spitfire, and I kind of did see where they were coming from when I looked back at the deck.
Right.
But Blunderbuss is just safer, and that go again is valuable.
So I'm curious about the block you made over there on the Scarfer 8. You gave him 2-3 blocks and then 2 equipment, and then you're holding 2 blues. If he just arsenaled, if he just passed priority and arsenaled after that, what would you have done with the 2 blues in your arsenal? Would you start cracking gold?
Sorry, what was the last blue I blocked with?
That is a great question.
But it would have been cracking gold.
Okay, well,
yes,
I
would have
pitching the gold. Okay, that makes sense. Because I was like, because you had the option to just block 8 from hand and leave your equipment up, right? If you're going for the player 1-4 into gun, but you went for the aggressive block there, where if he chooses to arsenal, you can punish him by popping your gold, I guess.
Yeah.
Cool. But since he attacked, you decided you could have gone to 1, but you're like, that's not worth the gamble of cracking gold. You just keep him off gold. You're starving him, and you're sending lethal back.
Oh yeah, something very important I need to bring up is that going to 1 in this set is absolutely terrible. There are so many 4 go against and 7s that going to 1 is practically a death sentence, because you have so many times you need to block. You need to overblock 4. You need to 3-card block 7. So I think going to 1 is just not worth it. Like, unless you're presenting lethal on your turn, or you are confident that you'll strip the entire hand.
Okay. And that was also a fascinating thing that you did over there. You actually gave that gun go again, and then you just converted one of your gold into a cog. Can you talk to us about that? Like, you just want to leave a cog up because you didn't crank it that turn, so you kind of just want to go into your next turn with a cog with no steam counter on it. But you still have 2 gold. So what is your thought process behind that one? Behind that play?
Yeah, so that's just using that. That's just using the go again, because I had the tighten the screws for free. Like, I might as well just tap the cog, give the thing go again, and then fake. Like, I wasn't faking anything at 0 cards in hand, but like making that cog and going into your next turn enables cards like Steamboat, like Zeppelin, extra skiffs, extra skimmers. It's just very valuable to have that extra cog up. And I think I had so much gold at this, like, I had enough gold at this point that I kind of wanted to keep that pain train going rather than keeping up the gold for something else. And this was not a high tide deck, so I wasn't drawing much with the gold. Generally, if you're drawing with gold, I think you a bit more heavy on high tide cards, so like Sloop or Battalion Barke. But I didn't really draft those cards. I had like 20-something cards in my draft pool, 20-something mech cards in my draft pool. So I was mainly focused on making those cogs, cranking those cogs, and playing mech cards that have the cog payoffs on them.
Mm-hmm. Makes sense. And 2 gold does seem to be the breakpoint when you have cards like Perk Up, right? Like 2 gold just means your Perk Up draws your card, but 3 could be excessive unless you get blue flooded. But to your point, this was not a high tide deck, and you had already seen quite a few blues at this point, so you can reasonably expect that you'd be fine. And we see the strength of Perk Up.
And here, this is just like a fantastic draw. Shows why Red Teeth of the Cog is a pretty decent card, especially with Blunderbuss.
Yep,
that go again into 4.
Kind of wounding blow that you're also okay to block with sometimes, because if it refreshes the cog. So in terms of theory, what sort of value would you give refreshing a cog? Like an untap effect, or say a Teeth of the Cog, which lets you refresh a cog. If you had to put a value on it, what value would you give untapping a cog or refreshing it with a Galvanize?
I'd go 0.5. So it's a block 2.5. Yeah. Because it's definitely not. Well, I don't think it's worthy of 1 block, but I think it's worthy about half a card. Because you're making your Sky Skimmers have go again. You're making your things have +1, which I think kind of giving that a 0.5 value makes sense, because you're not always getting it, but there's a decent chance you do. And I did want to mention that I think one thing I did not do well in my drafts was that I did not draft enough Sky Skimmers. Like, I realized Sky Skimmers were getting snatched up by the other puffins like like without hesitation, where I was kind of picking some other cards over Sky Skimmers. And I think that Sky Skimmer is probably, I think it's good, but it's better than I gave it credit for. And I probably should have taken a few more like during my draft. Yeah.
Okay. That makes sense. That's super valuable reflection and insight. So I guess, yeah, so that was the ending salvo over there where you could go perk up, give your gun go again, and attack for 4 afterwards after card draw, which was a very, very cool ending to the game. It was a very, very solid game, honestly. It seemed like Ivan was in the driver's seat when he sent a 13 at you, but then you got puffin draws, whereas he didn't because you were starving him of gold as well. And I think that's kind of what brought you back into the game. In terms of high-level stuff regarding puffin stuff, how do you feel looking back on the weekend on the gold and cog generation of puffin? Because I think on the theory side of things, like when people look at a set at a high level, it may seem like it's a bit difficult to like actually trigger a puffin, but you seem to do that pretty easily. Like, how does... I guess, is that mostly a Treasure Island thing, or is it mostly the cards you prioritize? Like, you spoke about how you want to pick more Sky Skimmers, but that's kind of at its best if you have enough cog generation, which typically involves gold generation. So how do you feel about that whole resource dynamic with puffin?
Yeah, I think it definitely is attributed to Treasure Island. I've been testing puffin in CC, and it's been kind of rough. Like the gold generation just isn't really there, and if you're relying on the M's like Cogworks Workshop, I think, and Cog in the Machine, like they're a bit inconsistent. You don't draw them all the time, so definitely a Treasure Island thing. And I think that playing puffin in limited, to bring this discussion back, like you have those 3 blocks. You have the battle worn equipment. Ideally, I think Rust Belt and Unicycle are extremely strong. That gives you kind of more block than the other 2 heroes to control when you give up that Treasure Island. And you have the modal cards, the go again or the +1. And those are difficult to play around. So you can kind of count on yourself getting that Treasure Island payout. And that fuels your cog generation, it fuels your perk up draw. And I think that's really where Puffin's strength lies, like that kind of the mix-ups, the go again, the blocking. Yeah. So I think Puffin's a very decent pick in draft. I think in sealed it's a bit difficult because looking at the set, there's actually not that many Mechanologist cards in the set. Like your common and rare pool isn't huge, so but you still get that 2-1-2 pack distribution, like 2 of 2 classes and 1 of 1 class. So you can like that in draft, that kind of small pool becomes an advantage because you kind of know what cards you're going to see. You can kind of count on certain things coming to you again. And I think that's what Puffin's about in limited. So I think it's a solid pick in draft. I think it's not very good in sealed because you're a bit too diluted. And I think in sealed, Gravy turned out to be kind of one of the standout like winners of sealed, along with Scurv. Yeah, we didn't manage to see a Scurv in the draft. I was hoping to see one. I think it would be interesting because like someone picked Scurv like pretty early, right? And then instead of seeing the class cards drying up, you start to see all the good generic and pirate cards drying up. So I think that would have been kind of interesting dynamic to see in the draft. Yeah. And I think it's something that people have to be aware of, right? Like Scurv is not a joke. He is a pretty nasty hero. He gets Tunic. He kind of gets like a Tunic plus a go again every other turn. And then there's a few cards that untag a hero, not too many. But yeah, so Scurv is definitely not a force to be underestimated.
Mm-hmm. That's really cool. And that's another fascinating dimension to this already super deep format. It's really, really cool. You mentioned sealed, so yeah, you gave some solid advice for people going for the pre-releases. Are you going to any this weekend?
I am headed to one pre-release just to play with some of my like friends here in Sydney, like the locals. And I just want to open more high seas, to be honest. Like, something not great that happened in Taiwan is that after deck construction on day 2, I had a bunch of cards stolen because I left a box of cards on the table. Yeah,
Oh
I think
God.
I lost like I lost like an RF Fable. I lost the Conqueror of the High Seas. I lost like 3 Fellings, 2 Plow Unders, a Florian Marvel.
Oh
So,
my god.
kind of soured the victory, but I'm still happy with my performance. Like, um, definitely would have felt a lot worse if I didn't top 8. Yeah, but still, like, that was rough losing all those cards.
Yeah, damn, I'm really sorry to hear that. Well, you all heard it here. If anyone found a box of those cards, please return them to Alex. Anyone who went to a World Premiere or knows someone who found those cards. Yeah, that really sucks, man.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. I just like to like shout out Ivan. Like Ivan is one of my close, like pretty close friend in Singapore. Like valuable, like testing partner. Definitely a very very good limited player, and a lot of insight from him over the course of different sets. And in the top 8 as well, like Shure, also part of our same group. And I was staying with Shuri at the same hotel, and like both of us making it top 8 was fantastic. Yeah.
Always great when the team gets to share the victory by also being there. And yeah, and Ivan played the game excellently. I mean, that was why this was the game I chose to cover, because I think both of you played that really, really well and really showcased the power of Puffin. Like he was like kind of on the front foot, but then when he went on the back foot, he still had those amazing plays on small hands, and then you had the amazing actually like Puffin ability draws and stuff. It was really, really cool. So yeah, with that, speaking of shoutouts, how can people find you if people want more Alex? Where can they find you or hear from you? If they want to reach out, how should they do it?
Yeah, I'm not too active on Twitter. Maybe I should be, considering that it seems like a pretty big place for flesh and blood stuff. But definitely feel to contact me on Discord. Camera phone spelled with a K and an F instead of a PH. Yeah, I'm sure you'll put it somewhere here, right?
Yeah, we'll put it in the description as well. Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you so much again for coming on, and we hope all the viewers and listeners enjoyed that. That was episode 4 of Replay Analysis with the pros, and we will see you in the next one.
Thank you so much for having me.